Hi, and welcome to Thread Talks. And I'm so excited today to have an internationally acclaimed makeup artist. So many customers of ours have said they want to hear from makeup artists and they want their expertise in advising on brows. So I have the wonderful James Mack, who you may have caught him on Glow Up, the BBC series where he was a finalist. Welcome, James.
Thank you so much, Nita, for having me.
It's great to have you. People want to hear about your tips when it comes to brows and makeup in general. But you're also really super creative. And I just think it'd be so interesting for people to hear about your journey. And, did you always know that you wanted to be a makeup artist?
I think subconsciously, way down in the line, yes, I knew,
It
but
was in you.
it was in me. It's definitely been a journey. So even being here, when I met the team, for backstory, I had my first threading treatment with Blink Brow Bar London in Selfridges in July. So it's a newfound obsession and
So you
space for
only
me.
discovered it a few months ago.
Yeah, I'm a new loyal fan.
So how were you taking care of your brows prior to?
I was taking care of them with a good old tweezers, letting them grow wild, and then just throwing caution to the wind at any threaders who's in my local area. But I will say that I was going to a thread bar that was based in kind of North London in Islington, where I was about a year ago.
Don't want to mention them.
Yeah. So either ways, yeah, I was always kind of looking after it myself because I've self-curated kind of my own,
Yeah.
just beauty routine, and it was my partner that introduced me to Blink Bar Bar in July, and then I think I would just contact you guys through socials, and I came here in September, and then I discovered Thread Talks, and I thought I have a lot to talk about as well.
You do. And actually, your brows look amazing. You've just had them threaded. So, and yeah, you've got good brows.
Yeah.
But so tell me about when you first realized that you wanted to become a
Yeah.
makeup artist.
I was always an artistic child. I loved art growing up in rural Ireland, and I'm an only child of two really supportive parents. I come from a very big, larger Irish family, and there was always art, literature, a lot of sports in my kind of upbringing. And luckily, my dad's sister, my godmother, she led me to going to a lot of art galleries, and I was always drawing. And I think the sketching started as, caricatures of cartoons, like animated children's shows. And then when I grew up into my teenager years, Amy Winehouse was a huge hit online. She was winning the Grammys. All the girls were starting to wear this massive long liner, thick brows and lashes. And I started to navigate my sketching of cartoons into doing face charts and simply doing them on my notebooks in school. And I got really obsessed with starting to draw, like sketching out the brows and liners and lashes and almost drawing makeup with a HB pencil and, water color paper before I knew that this was going to tie into something, down the
I think
line.
it always starts with the eyes.
Oh yeah, for me, eyes are the
That's
soul.
where, and when you're doing makeup, do you start with your brows?
I start with my brows and my eyes. I say the very first physical step for me is the lashes. So my first ever makeup product and tool was a lash curler. I borrowed a couple without
My
permission.
daughter's got my lash curlers, and I keep saying, "Don't! They're going to ruin if you don't use them properly." In fact,
Correct.
what's your advice on lash curlers?
Yeah,
She
so
does them with mascara on, and I'm like, "No,
oh my goodness.
disastrous.
Yeah.
Disastrous.
I've topped up during the day, but I think, yes, my mum did invest in a curler when she went to a beautician or got professional advice. I must have been about 14, 15, and I just always had like a very vigilant eye looking at her makeup bag, watching from afar, but never seeing any inspiration for myself as a young, just gay male growing up in rural Ireland that it was okay for me to do it, but I was always inquisitive. So, yeah, I just went into her bag. I was playing around, and I do have these naturally quite long lashes, all thanks to my mother's genetics, I'm sure. And when I curl, I don't know what it is about the elasticity in my fibers, but it just lifts. Today, this is a curl.
They look very bouncy.
Well, it's very fresh. I got a lash lift with you guys 2 months ago. I've got a busy day, so I know I want to come back and get the treatment and really, nourish those 48 hours treating it. But when I curled my lashes for the first time, that's when I saw the beauty with the crossover of the art. So I was about 14 or 15. And then I think when that happened, I was very shy as a child and afraid to really express myself, to think that this is normal. But in my bedroom or in the bathroom at the weekends, I would lock the door for hours, and then I started to collect a bit of makeup, eyeliner. I was transitioning the.
Did you have to do it secretly?
I felt like I did.
You're right.
I did. It's only 15 years ago. I'm nearly 30, and I remember just how much society has changed in these 10, 15 years. That there was just a lot of taboo that's been eradicated. There's a lot more work to still do, but we have destigmatized a lot as queer people and for the LGBTQI plus community. Ireland's marriage referendum was in 2015, and that was a big push. That's the year I finally came out. But as a teenager, yeah, I felt that I just had to. Going back, would I change things? Sure. But I think that's why these conversations are there for the younger audience, and why it matters to me to open this conversation, because it's just, you save yourself a lot of time. And once I kind of came out and said to mum, I love to sketch these face charts, I use an eyelash curler, I'm getting more into makeup. Like, she had no problem with it. It was more...
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But I think going through these challenges in life, and I think being Indian second generation as well, you see the changes, and it's nice to think it's great to think there have been changes, and we can be more open about race, gender, and so on. So, I think, and hopefully life will continue to evolve, and our children will look back and see that things have improved. But, I remember back in the, in the 90s, I was listening to bands like Susie and the Banshees and Visage, Steve Strange, and they all wore a lot of eye makeup. It was perfectly fine for guys and girls to all kind of indulge in makeup. It's quite gothic.
I think because of where I just grew up, by its nature, it felt there was just no city, aspiration. I wasn't the capital of Ireland's Dublin. We were an hour south of it. I was born and raised for the first 2 years of my life in Dublin, but that's something for me to actually remember. It wasn't until I finished secondary level and did my exams and I went to university to study a Bachelor's of Science in Media first. So I think to note, everything had a journey step by step to leading here. If I was to wake up when I was a teenager and realize I'd be a makeup artist and then build on from that profession to having these conversations, I wouldn't know how to put the pieces together. I had to live these last 10 or 15 years. So yeah, when I was younger, I was very athletic, very artistic, did all the conventional sports, big into horse riding, born on a saddle, and very competitive. And then I realized I took to photography at about 14 or 15 years, whilst the hidden agenda was the makeup. But on the forefront, I tried to introduce a bit off the beaten track artistic eye by doing photography. And I did secondary level courses, and then I went to university and studied media. And I guess that's where, lo and behold, it tied into moving to London. I realized, no, I wanted to be a makeup artist. I became a trainee, and then I used to shoot my own looks, capture the makeup, and then that's where it's tied into now. But you never know when you do these things that that's going to be so important to you at a later point.
You just kind of go with where life takes you sometimes, but it's obviously intrinsically always been in you.
Interestingly enough, because I find my brows and lashes have always been so important from day one. They've always mattered to me as a teenager. And my brows have been on a journey as well, but I think it's like I've understood them more for myself, if I've understood more about myself, if I've let my 20s even kind of expire and go through the last 10 years. But yeah, it's always humbling to remember where you come from as well, and realize that it doesn't matter where you come from, to again embrace your passion and make it as big as an opportunity, just career for yourself as possible.
Yeah, and actually you were telling me about the fact that you grew up on an Ayurvedic diet, which I thought was really interesting. I didn't, but obviously, having this brand now and researching it's so important as part of our whole kind of wellness philosophy. But you were just telling me that you grew up drinking turmeric.
So basically for my
lattes. And they weren't called turmeric lattes then. It was just probably milk with a bit of
turmeric in them, and it was just so anti-inflammatories was like a key word. So from about the age of, I remember being 9 or 10, and this is kind of borderline before discovering any element of beauty. My mum, for her own diet reasons, had discovered through her friend the Ayurvedic lifestyle and the Ayurvedic diet, or just introducing. It focuses on foods that are adaptive to the different seasons. So we have, the strong seasonal elements. In the winter, it's a lot more broth, hot, soups, vegetables, anti-inflammatories. And this was introduced into how meat is still acceptable, but it was a lot more vegetable based. And that just became like second nature. So I didn't even know the ins and outs of the benefit of it. I just remember even the word Ayurvedic being in my diction. And
a lot of people don't know what Ayurvedic is actually, but it's a whole way of living.
It is, absolutely.
Is really important.
And what I've learned from that, I have gotten really into yoga and meditation from about 24, 25. So I don't know if I'm just like old soul by trade, but something was drawing me to this, and something was hard growing up to feel like I had these interests, but it wasn't like, what the kids were involved about it. It was like if you didn't support Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester United. But I'm like, but where's the Vata, Pasha, and the dosa like traits? And but you know, it was just my nurturement and my mum kind of because of her diet requirements needing that. And I learned quite quickly that I'm based off the Vata diet, that I'm, you know, very hyperactive, quite slim in build, a lot of energy, but sometimes that can be topped with you need to try to manifest controlling it. And that's where the diet and, you know, you are what you eat expression easily explains
So you're
that.
vegetarian?
I'm not, but I would be very like plant-based and just focus on, like, I love to make dals, curry, lentil dishes, soups, broths, kind of very light with my eating. But then, you know, I'll eat anything as well. I have the biggest diet or appetite. I've got the biggest appetite in the world. But though, yeah, that was brought into my kind of lifestyle at a younger age, and it just helps me. For me, it just helps regulate. So because I'm so hyperactive with the diet and
It makes
learning
you
about
mindful about food, I think, which is so
exactly.
important.
And then I find that food base has made me more conscious about mindfulness, and that's a huge passion of mine as well. So for me, with makeup, and because I loved art, that's how I express myself. I think even when I was a younger kid and I didn't know where I was going to go before I got out of kind of rural Ireland, I still didn't want to, you know, disregard what my passions were. I still kind of, I never gave up, essentially. I think that's always been something that I'm happy that I didn't, just for me personally, suppress myself to feel like I should do something more conventional because it's what I saw all around me. And there's amazing opportunities at home. I love going back. I'm very proud of where I'm from.
Yeah.
But it's just, I've always chased doing what I want to do and wherever those opportunities will be,
Which is which
available.
is great for, you know, all of us. And you obviously need that creative outlet. And you also went to Hyderabad to do some masterclasses in makeup, which I was fascinated about because I've visited a lot. My husband's actually from Hyderabad, so before I came, I told him that I was interviewing you. So like, wow!
Oh,
So
Punjaba Hills. Yeah,
yes,
literally.
exactly. And wonder, I mean, how did you know? Were they receptive to learning about makeup? And I mean, you know, I sort of think India has a long way to go in terms of they love beauty and they love makeup, but do they think outside their sort of parameter of
Yeah. So Hyderabad is a very interesting chapter that's unfolding in my life. I have a cousin who's married to a gorgeous man from Kerala.
Right.
He's born and raised British with a second generation Indian family, and they got married right before the pandemic in 2020. And off that basis, I traveled all of like India for 2 months, right up until the end of February 2020. We just got in before the pandemic, and that, you know, stripped a lot of the culture shock, and we saw there's so much similarities between Indian and Irish culture, and especially when there was that.
there
There's
really
so
are.
many.
I have so many Irish friends, and I think
Yeah.
it's so true that you need to break away sometimes because however much we love it and we want to go home and we love it culturally, we still feel that there needs to be a bit of progress in the way that people
Yeah,
think.
so that was like a stepping stone for a friend of mine works for the Institute of Makeup Association in the London School of Makeup, and he had an assistant or a student, I should say, from Hyderabad, and she wanted to learn professional makeup training because there's an academy tied to the London School of Makeup in Hyderabad, and it's called the Alia Beg Academy of Makeup. And Alia Beg is one of the most sought for Indian bridal professionals, online beauty content creators in India. She's a huge established name, and they wanted to expand their students' horizons on breaking through, I suppose. The Indian bridal business is massive. All 99.9% of the
Yeah.
students and aspiring artists will drive towards that because I mean if I had the amount of workflow that's there here, I'd be laughing because it's like, you know, find one good thing with the beauty and you're on a high. These students have creative ability, and Alia's message is to get the creative artistic flair. We are makeup artists, like we are artists, and our tools and paints are simply makeup. And she was very passionate with her academy in Hyderabad to showcase that to her students. So when my friend simply was not available to go out and train, he asked me, hey, I've got this contact. I'm on a cruise in Miami. I have this like
the life of a
week.
makeup
Oh,
artist, I tell
right.
you,
And
I
but he's a
mean.
stage performer. But this fellow friend is very multi-talented. Daniel RBC, big, highly recommended. And he said, "Are you free to go to India to do a week's training course and showcase, you know, your artistic flair, your unconventional creative side of you?" And I was like, "Absolutely." But I said, "Is this like, do they know what they're going to expect?" And Alia, well, it was the first, it was a trial and error basis. They had never seen something like this or had an international professional come over. And this is just in February this year. So it's very fresh off the page. Like the last 10 months has been wild personally for me.
Yeah.
I went over and it was a breakthrough success. And there was about 30 students in the class. They come from all different age backgrounds. Some are mothers, their daughters, their nieces, and they are working separate jobs. They're in this academy full time, 6 days a week, from dawn till dusk.
I know
They
there are lots
work.
of male makeup artists.
There was none in the class, and you know what? I think it was a breakthrough for me to be there as an openly queer, gay male in the industry.
Yeah.
And it was aspiring, but it was aspiring for me. And don't get me wrong, I was so proud to be there at the.
It must be so inspiring for them because I think they're very conventional with the makeup.
Yeah.
And there's so much more they could do. You're right, so important in the industry. But also really nice if there are male makeup artists that want to explore that and,
I think so.
and be able to.
One of my messages and my goals and my reasons for doing this is to imagine in the future that I go back to this academy where Alia Beg is teaching her students and I might see a male in the class, because you have to honor and respect that the cultures and the religion and the backgrounds are so different. We are traveling half across the world. I'm bringing what they see online in person, and I saw them use color for the first time and they picked it up so well. Like some of them were henna tattoo artists and their line work is sharper than me, and I'm trying to do backstage fashion liner or something. They took to it really well. So I said openly, like I would imagine that in the future I will see some young boys in the class, because it's how I did feel 15 years ago. I think that it is going to happen. It's just happening at a like different time, but I've got massive faith in it. Like some students struggled to come in because they did have their family wanting them to stay at home, to not further their education, and they questioned the creative or the professional legitimacy of being a makeup artist. And I get that, I respect that. I had the same questions asked about myself at home. My parents supported me so much, they just wanted me to be okay, and they wanted me to succeed and just not feel under financial, I don't know, emotional, mental pressure or creative. It's a struggle. Like it is a lifestyle. This is 20%.
Did you feel the mental pressure? Or
I did. I did a little bit, but growing up queer, as I've said, but neurodivergent, to mention I have Tourette's as well. I had a lot on my plate, and I think I have been so resilient and gone through a lot in my life personally before moving to London at 25, having some great career breakthroughs in the last few years, and seeing the results. It's only made me stronger, or it's only made me more resilient, that when I fall, I remind myself this is a roller coaster, and my downfalls will be my assets to when I'm just on a ascent again. And I share that message with the students, because I said so much of this industry is so trial and error. I've way more failures than you see the good stuff online.
well, like everybody has when they talk about their journey. And I think you're right, it just makes you more resilient and strong. And you're very open about everything. You're very open about Tourette's. I know you talk about it on a weekly basis on social media. But has that held you back or not really? I mean,
I have Tourette's. I've been born with it. It's a neurological disorder. Mine is more of a motor neuron form. So you'll see me tick and twitch. Mentioning it kicks off far more stronger. The biggest misconception with Tourette's is people think we swear. 10% of the Tourette's community has copralia, and I think what might have maybe stifled the better educating, like knowing more about what Tourette's really means, is Pete Bennett was a winner of Big Brother about 20 years ago, and huge TV personality, super personal. I'm a massive fan. He lives with Tourette's, and he had copralia. It wasn't his intention because he lives with it like involuntary, but the media then kind of skews the public's or the bigger society's understanding of Tourette's, and when it's such a minority of people that live with it, it's not going to get the forefront attention or the actual proper definition of what it needs.
Yes.
So only recently Lewis Capaldi has developed Tourette's. And it's not a thing that you come out with it. It's something that is literally out of your control. I've had mine since I was 3 or 4 years old. It's changed consistently. Again, I don't have the copralia part, but I've got so much other physical forms of tics. And Lewis developed his at 32, but because he's, in the spotlight, he struggled on main stage Glastonbury this year it brought it back up, surfaced. So I've had a lot of feelings kind of come up with it recently, but I think I've learned through people with Tourette's, we have quite high needs of wanting to generate dopamine. So it's a stimulant, and that's another technical term in Tourette's is stimming. So my physical twitches, it's a stim where I have one that is very sharp and turns to the right, And before I do liner or lashes or my lovely intrinsic details, I will have a little tick fit. My
Yeah.
partner and I, we do have a drag name for her. She's called Betty Touretti. And you have to find humor in all of it as well. And I think I found that peaceful place after
Yeah.
years. Yeah, it's been misconceptualized for a long time.
Yeah, definitely.
And
That's really interesting
yeah.
to hear.
And
Yeah.
only this year I developed a social media guide for Instagram and TikTok called Tourette's Tuesdays. So I do a weekly video on Tuesdays about living with Tourette's, but through the power of makeup. And ironically, coming to the Bling Brow Bar, I learned when I got my brows tinted and threaded last time about the Ayurvedic practice of brow pinching. And I do it
Yes.
every morning. And
Oh, that's
yeah.
amazing because I do it every evening actually.
Really?
That's my kind of trying to wind down time, and I use our brow oil and I just do a
Same.
bit of pinching.
Oh, the roller applicator on top of the brow oil, and it releases blood flow. It takes away the stress from the day. I find that I used to do this for like frowning and create the 11s and make this frustrated blinking motion, and I genuinely think I'm doing it less because I'm just doing this simple 15-second practice either in the morning or in the evening because you're eliminating or decongesting all of those toxins. So that was a really important episode in my Tourette's Tuesday series, which tied into how I found you guys as a family. And yeah, I've been very open about talking about Tourette's, but that I think has made me almost feel like I've got nothing to hide, and it's made me a lot more stronger. And again, with our industry, it's made me feel like if I've got nothing to hide, I'm not ashamed to make mistakes. This industry is about learning and growing all the time. That's where then I felt I was ready to have this opportunity to go to India this year and then like teach. Literally, the student becomes the teacher and share this knowledge with the students.
Which must be a wonderful feeling actually.
It is. And again, if I'm looking for stimulants all the time with this neurodivergency, I'm feeling proud and fulfilled. And again, it's like when we're creators, we have that passion. We'll want to always feel like we are fulfilled in like our creative work or our message. And I'm not shy of talking, so I'm going to want to share a message.
Well, I think also it's a relief for other communities that just want to know that life isn't perfect, that we all have our challenges, that, everything involves hard work and we all struggle with various things, whether it's anxiety, imposter syndrome. There's always something, right? All human. So.
And that point makes me think of something right now. I think I love to have myself very well presented. Like the structure of the brows, it structures the face. I now do that from a much more peaceful place where there was a time that I cared so much that it was like my armor to be totally presented, almost like picture perfect, dolled, freshened up. My first partner when I was like 21, I'd wake up at 6 a.m. to curl my lashes and go back to sleep to be like, morning, to think that I had to be this well presented. Now I can do it from a place where it means something to me, but I know I'm doing it without a hidden story. Like I care for it because I'm just passionate about beauty and creating.
But you're not hiding behind it.
Hiding behind it, exactly. And that's what I think a lot of like my culture, nurturement, upbringing, this career and the journey that I've been on as a makeup artist, and then even tying it back into the Tourette's Tuesdays and my travels to India, they've been my cumins, my corianders, my turmerics to my recipe, whatever the
Lovely way
metaphor.
to describe
Yeah.
it. And you'll love our next guest because she is an Indian chef actually.
Wow.
So we're going to be talking a lot about cumin and turmeric and
What's the one I'm forgetting? The cardamom or
cardamom.
cardamom? Oh my god!
I was struggling to
There's
say
my,
that.
like, hidden
Friends at
dyslexia
working,
as well. Yeah, cardamom. Yeah.
And also tell me about Glow Up because that was an amazing accomplishment too. I mean, you were a finalist. It's BBC competition. What was that like? Was it fun? Was it scary?
It was all of
Come
it.
out
Yeah.
thinking, I did it. That was great. Or did you come out thinking, oh my god?
It was, it feels like we're the furniture in the franchise of the antiques. I was on second series of Glow Up. It was filmed in 2019 and it came out in the pandemic in 2020. So I enjoyed it so much. I had so much fun. When I finally realized I wanted to do makeup and I moved to London 5 years ago in 2018, the first series of Glow Up came out. And I was a fan. I was obsessed. I didn't think that it would ever be a situation for myself, but I found that it was resonating with my passions. I had a media degree behind my back. I'd just done a 9-month training course in makeup in Ireland. by chance I met a designer who got me on a month's trial in London for Horrible Histories as a TV show for kids. That was my very first job as a trainee,
Amazing.
season 8. A month. I still got an apartment and a car rented, but it was like I was manifesting I want to stay. I got the rest of the contract as a trainee. So I stayed in the UK, watched the first season. I was so nervous applying, but I just said, screw it, like, click, do it, don't look
So
away.
that's it. So you just
I
literally
just
applied
applied.
online.
Yeah, I persevered. I wasn't casted or discovered because I had none of the work that is kind of in my portfolio now. Because I hadn't never shared any of my art or my drag. I wasn't posting a lot online. I didn't care for social media, ironically, 4 or 5 years ago. Got a call back. Months of trials and rounds because it was pre-pandemic. I got to the final 15, and then I think I had the message to the producers where I said, I've been through enough in life. Where I was like, I'm queer, I have Tourette's. I think that I am proud of making failures and not afraid to showcase it because I'm doing it for other people's comfortability as much as I'm not, like, my ego won't override the experience. And that was my message going in, to have fun. So we filmed it September 2019. The pandemic hits at the start of 2020. I thought all hope was lost, that the production got pushed back by 3 months. 9 months later, it actually comes out in the summer 2020. And it was so much more focused on art. I think the show excels so much because it wants to show that unconventional creativity, what the power of makeup can do to really release, a young person's mind, or any aspiring makeup artist that goes on the show's mind. And yeah, maybe there was a bit of luck. There was just a hope and a prayer. I'm in
It's never
the
luck.
tough skin and just, resilience, I'd say. And just letting go, learning to have fun. Again, this whole drop this perfectionism. I'm in these red chairs, which is like the bottom two, like, hot seats. Half of the series, I kept that chair warm, but that taught me a lot in the moment. What was my instinctive fight or flight? And I look back now, and I remember watching the show myself. My fan base and my following blew up. I got 300,000 followers in 2 weeks. And we went to Netflix as well. So it was BBC produced. Warner Brothers has a off-branch production company that wall-to-wall media produced the show. And that was they had a relationship with Netflix. None of us knew going in as contestants that we would have this outreach. I thought it was totally, for me, an experience to just push my abilities, because I remember thinking, I was living in London, saying, if I want to get more jobs, I gotta upskill myself. I was doing almost like a crash course in getting better at makeup, never mind thinking I'm on a show.
It's better that way.
Yeah, well,
isn't it? Because it feels like you're probably more natural and
oh,
less competitive.
oh, listen, and I was like the black sheep in the room with the Irish accent, the first of my kind, and I was like, how's it going, guys? And like Val Garland, the lead judge, who's the senior head director of makeup for L'Oreal, was Lady Gaga's makeup artist for years. I mean, an icon in the industry. I had no real knowledge of makeup from following the greats and reading like their books. I went in nearly blind. Val Garland looks like my mum, and she's got the long blonde hair and the funky shades. So I pictured Val Garland like my mother, like chasing me around the kitchen island with a wooden spoon as a child, and I just felt familiar with her before she even knew it. And it just took so much unnecessary nerves out the door.
I just enjoyed it.
And because of my media background, I think when I saw the first season, I said, this is it. Makeup and media, like, combined. That's what pushed me to apply. And then it wasn't until it went out into the air, I guess I had realized in third person what I had done or what I'd achieved. And that was a very special time. It was fundamental for us in the pandemic. It got us through our lockdown in Ireland. I went back to Ireland for 2020, 2021, a year and a half. And
It was kind of a blessing. It was because people, it was on in our house.
Yeah.
So the girls were watching it. So
massively.
Yeah.
And, that's how the understanding my relationship with Tourette's actually came out. Again, I talked about it for the first time ever on show. And it was the first time I ever had a camera in my face where, think about it, when I'm doing it, I'm looking over there. I don't know what it looks like on the mirror. And when the mirror is on actual camera, I remember my face going very red. I was with my mum and dad in our living room, and it was episode 2, and I had my moment speaking about it. And when I say the messages, and no joke, there thousands came in. It was very emotional, because it was like realizing my value of being honest, raw, vulnerable, but knowing that there was so many more people of similar derivatives of if they just got tics or Tourette's. And I obviously reached a lot of people, and I just was so unexpected. Like, I never did it for an intention. And I think that's what made it so much pure. And that was very emotional for my family and I to go through, because we were experiencing, a global pandemic. We were all suffering from loss, isolation, and feeling the want of need from someone else, or a companionship and a connection. You can't, I guess, you can't make it up. You can't make up the timing. It was obviously meant to happen.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of it, but it has given me so much opportunities since, and I'm just, again, taking everything step by step. I feel I can look back now after 4 years have gone by.
Is it 4? Oh my goodness. Yeah.
It's 3 since it aired, but that experience is over 4 years.
Yeah.
And I feel now I can own it for myself, because I didn't have more than 6 months industry experience as a trainee before the show. I've gone on to do some wild jobs, amazing opportunities, grow my professional experience as a professional artist in this game and in this industry. And it's like, now I know more of who I am when I sit into the chair, or when someone sits into the chair and I'm doing my magic. I just went in blind, but obviously I was just, my soul was doing it.
Yeah.
Sounds deep, but that's how I can explain it.
No, it sounds magical. It's a journey. You're just being swept along on this journey, and it's all working. So right, we need some tips and tricks for brows, because we can't have a makeup artist on the sofa and not share. Have you got some hacks we should all know about, or what are your
Yes.
kind of like absolute?
Speaking of the word, don't hack your brows.
Yes.
They are beautiful in more of their natural shape. I nearly had no brows, was living my best Christina Aguilera fantasy 10 or 15 years ago, but it was by fault and fear. I think letting them grow, or seeing what the natural shape is. And then I would always say a thread is important to find where they naturally have a good uphold shape. Follow what you have. And also trust that they're sisters, not identical twins. What has been the best thing for me in Blink Brow Bar, you have a lovely felt pencil, and I literally fill in softly in the inner corner, and then I just fill where I personally have we always have a little sparser at the corner of the arch, just filling those 2 corner points, and then I find just a little brow gel to brush them up. That's always important.
And also, you say little, and I think being heavy-handed with both a pencil and a gel can be a disaster.
I struggled so much with that, because
Yeah.
I went into this industry with such a heavy, hard hand.
Yeah.
I'm using clays and prosthetics and paints. I've had to learn to soften, because my brows used to be nearly black, painted HD on. And that's, practice makes perfect, in the sense that learn light hand.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. And don't be afraid to spend time even practicing on your wrist. I find to do the brush strokes and the shapes. What got me down to understanding and being able to shape my own brows, I was sketching all those years beforehand. So practicing how to have a softer hand. If you go in with a pomade pencil, or an eyebrow crayon pencil, or a soft gel, or even if it's going to be like a little ink pen for those individual flicks, practice even before you do it in the morning. Practice on your arm. Warm up your wrists a little bit, and then go in. Don't let the first stroke of the morning, before you have your coffee hit, before we're awake 3 hours after we actually rise.
Yeah.
Warm it up. Literally warm up your actual doing of the motion on your wrist. That's my tip.
Well, thank you. It's been wonderful having you. I've got some quick fire questions. I don't let anybody get off the sofa until they answer these for me. So, what would you rather have in the morning? You're sipping something now, an espresso or a matcha?
I'm going to say I'm addicted to espresso, but I know matcha's more important. So let me say matcha.
Okay, matcha.
Yeah,
matcha.
because I have to follow with that Vata diet to learn. If I'm so hype, it's a work in progress for me to wake up and start slow.
Yeah.
I have to wake up and nearly slow myself down.
Yeah.
So I'll say matcha.
Okay. Yoga or Pilates?
Yoga. I was so into sports. We haven't even touched on that. I was a ski instructor.
Oh,
I
wow.
am. I lived in Switzerland for a year when I was 16. I was a triathlon, shooting, running, swimming, horse riding. The Pilates, I think I'd find it too overpowering. The yoga, I need to open and stretch out and calm the body as much as it's physically good for me. And the breathing techniques. The yoga that I practice is Hatha yoga, and it's all about moving and stretching. I'm naturally quite toned as it is. The Tourettes carries a bit of muscles, stims, and strengthening, but that can really tighten up my body. I need to feel more released, and that will help calm my ticking. So Hatha yoga is so important to me. So yoga, 100%.
I think I know the answer to this, but museum or gallery?
Art gallery. I love museums. I mean, I love them all. My inspiration comes from Like I grew up in a forest background in rural Ireland. I never really looked up much art books. I literally would just pick the leaves off the trees and then put them on my face or paint around it. But I do love a gallery, especially in London.
Pencil eyeliner or felt eyeliner?
Oh, this is tough.
I
This is
know.
so
I
hard. You can't do
struggle
that to
with
me.
felt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can only have
So
one.
felt the pen. Is that? I would say felt because when I borrowed without permission my mother's curler, the next thing to then grow legs and walk into my bathroom was a felt liner because Amy Winehouse couldn't have enough on, and I would start that slim line, and then it would get graphic, and then it'd be like henna on my face, and then I'd be in full drag. But I love that process, so I'd have to say felt. And a tip for felt, because people always struggle about the eye shape, I always say to find from a center point, have a mirror at a lower angle where your eyes are at that lower angle where you're creating that space in the eyelids where if you're looking up ahead you are folding into your natural crease. Looking down will give you more space for the application of the felt pen. I find the tip, and again, warm up your wrist before you do the first motion, to go from the center so really thinly and build it to like the natural space you have on your lash line without overpowering. Dry it a little bit because when you look up,
Yeah.
then it won't smudge. You'll have it a second for maybe whatever the product is. See what the drying period on the product, if it says on the package. And that would be my tip to mastering how to do felt, and just do a little coat. For the wing cat eyeliner that people always say they want and doesn't fit their eye shape, I would probably do that with shadow, but I don't want to go off what you just said.
I'll
Felt
just
is
probably
the
give
way.
you a call and say, James, can you come and
Yeah.
wing
Yeah.
eyeliner
But
on?
I find the felt is important for just very thinly from the center, and then you can go back in and looking downwards at a mirror, you can see your own reflection, and overhead lighting that is going reflecting onto the mirror is another tip of mine. A makeup tip I have is lighting. It's not even a product, not even before I say my best eyeshadow palette, my best foundation. If you don't have lighting set up right, you're not even seeing like what it's in front of you for what it's worth, full on. And even in daylight, makeup, and when I do photo shoots, sometimes I don't have any makeup on the model, or I have just a light tinted base because the lighting will change it all, and that's where textures and things come up. Understand lighting before you go and play.
Yes, that's a
with
really
makeup
good tip
products.
because I have terrible lighting in my bathroom. And when I asked my daughter to put my eyeliner on, she says it's really hard to put eyeliner on wrinkly eyes.
Oh no!
Well, it's been amazing having you. Thank you. We shared so much today. Love of eyebrows, love of India, some fantastic makeup tips, which I'm sure everybody would be delighted to have, and also your challenges
Yes,
in life,
well-
which is also so. The honesty is fantastic. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me and giving me the space to just like voice and share my stories. I really appreciate it, and I am home in Blinkbrow Bar, London. You will not see the last of me.
Community. Thanks,
Exactly.
James.
Thank you so much.